to hear at home. Emmy Award-winning journalist Jeff Glor. Now every weeknight.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Glor.
On the CBS Evening News.
I have figured out the biggest problems in physics today.
You've solved them all?
No, I figured out that they're the biggest problems.
It isn't easy being a genius.
Sure, sometimes the physics is hard, but isn't that what makes it boring?
But it can be a blast.
Oh my God, what happened?
A day to arrest and you'll be fine.
I know nothing about Jewish people.
Can I just ask?
This is a long story. Why don't we please save your questions till the end?
Don't miss The Big Bang Theory, CBS Thursdays.
Want real news right now? We've got the app for that.
This is CBSN.
We're just on the front lines. Police have surrounded the area.
It's still unclear what caused this fire, why it spread so quickly.
There are flooded homes like the one behind me for miles.
Change is what many people here are looking for.
And now they're trying to pin the ISIS gunmen down.
The marchers were saying, let us march. We want to march.
CBSN, CBS News, always on.
To Washington now, where President Trump has arrived for a memorial service for Billy Graham. He's expected to speak soon. House Speaker Paul Ryan and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will also honor the late evangelist as he lies in honor at the Capitol.
McClatchy White House correspondent Anita Kumar is following the latest from Washington and joins us now. So Anita, we've got a lot of different things to talk to you about.
So many.
So as we wait for President Trump to speak, we're learning that Paul Manafort pleaded guilty not too long ago, actually. How significant, or rather not guilty, how significant is Manafort's plea as the Russia investigation intensifies? We're not surprised by this. We expected him to plead not guilty.
Right. It is not surprising. We had thought that he would plead not guilty. He's pled not guilty actually on other charges before. He has another appearance Friday in another court. We expect him to plead not guilty there. You know, it's not significant right this second in that, there's going to be a long trial coming up. What is significant is that the judge set the date for this particular trial mid-September. So it's right when the midterm elections will be in full swing. Campaigning will be going on. It's not going to be good for Republicans to have this trial going on. Now, the president and his team says this has nothing to do with me, but obviously this was someone who was a very top official in his campaign, so it does have something. It will be associated with him, whether the charges have to do with the president or not.
Mm-hmm. And Anita, we're switching gears here. As we just want to let you know here, folks, we are looking at the casket carrying the Billy Graham's body as he will lie in honor in the Capitol Rotunda. Anita, President Trump slamming Attorney General Jeff Sessions earlier, called it disgraceful, that's a quote, disgraceful that Sessions asked an Inspector General and not lawyers for the Justice Department to investigate surveillance abuses. So what could you tell us about this?
Sure. We're getting used to these slams on Twitter for the Attorney General. We haven't seen him in a while, I don't think. You know, President Trump has been very critical of his Attorney General, but still Jeff Sessions is hanging on. What he's referring to this morning is the Attorney General or the Department of Justice announced that the Inspector General, that they've asked the Inspector General to look into whether there were some abuses of the FISA court. This is the one that looks into, surveillance. President Trump has been saying that the campaign was surveilled during the presidential campaign, and he wanted someone to look into that. He's been urging the Attorney General to act. It's interesting. Yesterday, someone asked at the briefing, Sarah Sanders, whether he would be pleased with this, and she seemed to indicate
More than, oh, you know, the Inspector General doesn't have teeth?
Right. I mean, definitely. He always kind of looks at who, you know, whether he appointed them or whether President Obama did before him. So, I mean, he definitely is saying it's partisan. This is part of his problem with a lot of...
Graham's casket is about to be placed in the rotunda, and a number of dignitaries, including the president, will be arriving for a very special ceremony. So we're probably going to break into that, but that's what you're seeing right now. On to some of the other news of the day. Anita, Jared Kushner. Right? His security clearance now downgraded. Hey, he's in charge of all kinds of foreign relations issues, whether it's the relationship that we have with Mexico, peace in the Middle East. What sort of impact is this going to have?
Well, it's interesting. The White House says it will have no impact. But if you talk to experts, both security experts, you know, that deal with clearances, and also foreign policy experts, it's going to have an impact. I mean, if he is supposed to be the point person negotiating peace in the Middle East, he's not going to be able. He can still talk to people about it. There's no problem there. He won't know all the tactical decisions, and he won't be able to negotiate on those very detailed pieces. So it's going to be a problem. It also just sets a tone in the White House. You know, this is a top advisor to the president, his son-in-law, and here's someone who's not going to be able to find out the information every day. This is a guy who was involved in the presidential's daily briefing about intelligence. He would be involved in that and know about those things. He's not going to be allowed to do that anymore.
Anita, another big topic today, President Trump will be speaking gun control, be meeting with a group of bipartisan lawmakers on this issue. Later today, there has been a movement. Obviously, 2 weeks ago today, the shooting down at a high school in Parkland, Florida, 17 people were killed. A movement for gun control. Some of the loudest voices are from students at that high school who were affected. Today, the president will be meeting again with lawmakers. Can we really expect any deal moving forward, any real compromise?
It's really tough to see how that's going to happen. This is the latest one of his meetings. He's met with students and parents and law enforcement, and he met with the governors on Monday. So he's still in what the White House calls the listening mode. He wants to get more ideas. He'll talk to lawmakers. The group of lawmakers was quite interesting. It's about a dozen people, both parties, both chambers, but he has people in that group that are very strongly pro, gun, all over the map, basically. He has Senator Dianne Feinstein from California, who has a bill that she would like the president to support. So people that very much want gun control, he invited them to the White House. It's hard to see how Congress does anything, though. I mean, they're very far apart. You have not seen Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, or Mitch McConnell, the leader in the Senate, the Republican leader in the Senate, really say that they want to take up a lot of gun control measures, that they want to look at some other things, and they're mostly looking at very modest proposals. But yesterday, the White House did say that they would be putting out a list of things or some kind of policies that they would like to see changed. Not just on guns, just in general.
And Anita, we heard the president when he spoke in front of the group of governors say both, hey, maybe we need to push back against the NRA, that's okay, but also they're good guys, they're patriots. The NRA doesn't seem to really agree with much of what the president has floated, at least what he initially floated. Now he seems to sort of be backtracking on some of the issues, like raising the age for those who can buy rifles. He seems to be backtracking on those now, particularly after he had dinner with members of the NRA.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting, that meeting. He did seem to be speaking out of both sides of his mouth. So yes, the NRA, they're patriots, they're great people, they want to do what's right, but it's okay to fight them. So it was a kind of a mixed message there. But you're right, if you look at what his specific policies, and he hasn't been very specific, if you look at the policies he says he supported, as of today, most of them are in line with the NRA. The one he really talks about the most is a bill that Senator John Cornyn of Texas has, a Republican, that will have states provide more information to the background check system. So while important, it doesn't do what a lot of gun control people that want gun control want it to do. They want to expand the background check, and that won't do that. He has supported that. He has wavered on this changing the age, as you mentioned, that you could buy a rifle from 18 to 21. He seemed to strongly support it. Now he seems to be wavering on it. Some of the other things he suggested, arming educators in schools, the NRA supports. Looking at mental health issues, the NRA supports. So far, his list looks pretty much like something the NRA would like.
Yep. So what hope do we have for any change moving forward? We'll see. Anita Kumar, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
So just to remind everyone, the Reverend Billy Graham, his casket is due to arrive here, Capitol Hill. It will be laying in the rotunda, a very high honor for a civilian. Members of the administration, lawmakers, and the president will be arriving for a very special ceremony. You recall that Billy Graham died last week at the age of 99. When more news becomes available, we're going to bring that to you live. Of course, when events start to unfold here in the rotunda, we'll definitely bring that to you live. For now, though, we're going to take a quick break.
What's new under the sun?
Good morning. I'm Jane Pauley, and this is Sunday Morning. Da-da-da-da. This is exciting. So do you watch your movies with your kids?
No.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
Might that have been a career ender for you?
Oh, gosh, yes. For anybody.
Experience thought-provoking, innovative, and truly original reporting.
Hey, Jane.
Because there's always something new under the sun.
Join us when our trumpet sounds again
on CBS Sunday Morning.
I don't know what's going on in the world anymore. It's insane.
From around the globe to here at home, Emmy Award-winning journalist Jeff Glor. Now every weeknight.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Glor.
On the CBS Evening News. The biggest names in politics.
I'd rather have the federal government focused on other things.
Face the questions you want answered.
That is a very fair question.
I can't answer that question.
Thank you for asking that question.
Face the Nation, Sundays.
I figured out the biggest problems in physics today.
You've solved them all?
No, I figured out that they're the biggest problems.
It isn't easy being a genius.
Sure, sometimes the physics is hard, but isn't that what makes it boring?
But it can be a blast.
Oh my God, what happened?
A day to arrest and you'll be fine.
You know nothing about Jewish people.
Can I just ask?
This is a long story. Why don't we please save your questions till the end?
Don't miss The Big Bang Theory, CBS Thursdays.
Taking a live look inside the Capitol Rotunda, where lawmakers are waiting for the arrival of the casket that carries the body of Reverend Billy Graham, who passed away last week. Reverend Graham will lie in honor inside the Capitol Rotunda, one of 4 civilians to receive that honor, the last of whom was Rosa Parks. So this awaiting his casket has arrived outside the Capitol building. Momentarily, it will arrive inside. President Trump, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, all scheduled to speak and share their thoughts on America's pastor, who served over 50 years and advised a dozen presidents over his tenure.
Yeah, it's true. He really had been a witness to history when you talk about keeping the counsel of so many presidents during the civil rights movement, during various wars. And he was particularly close to Richard Nixon as well, something that had an impact on his relationship with future presidents, because he defended Richard Nixon for a very, very long time even after many of the revelations about Nixon became public. His family is also gathering. His body will be, or the casket rather, will be there from 1 until 8 p.m. for members of the public, and the expectation is that many people will come. Thousands of people will come to pay their respects. And there you see the president and the first lady now, as well as the vice president and his wife. And we see Speaker Paul Ryan as well. Oh, yeah, as we keep moving out, Mitch McConnell is there as well. Other lawmakers awaiting the beginning of this ceremony. The funeral for Billy Graham is scheduled for Friday, and that will happen in Charlotte.
Yeah, and, you know, we heard, as I said, we're going to be hearing from Paul Ryan here momentarily at some point in this ceremony, but he did say in a statement that Billy Graham
Ready, step. 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 Ready, step.
So there we've been watching the casket of the Reverend Billy Graham as it enters the rotunda. Who's evangelizing reached millions all around the globe with his books, with his outreach. Really a man who had a profound effect, not just on this country, but on the faithful throughout the world.
He traveled to China, India, Far East, Europe, and he first touched millions of lives in person through his preaching. And then he was able to connect with millions of more through his television programs. He was a spiritual advisor from everyone, presidents, from Harry Truman all the way up through President Trump. He was always nonpartisan. He never allowed politics to interfere. He never took a side. You never knew where he stood politically because he did not want that to interfere with his ministry. He was very close, as you mentioned earlier, Anne-Marie, was very close with President Richard Nixon. That friendship tested when the Watergate scandal broke, but he has been an advisor to all presidents. In fact, over the past several days, we have heard from several former presidents, President Obama, Bush, President Clinton, all of whom have shared wonderful stories about the friendship and his friendship and what Billy Graham meant to them personally and what Billy Graham meant to the country. And he really did, as you mentioned, had a profound impact. And it really doesn't make a difference what faith you follow, what religion you are. He was a great spiritual leader and very well loved by so many people.
Yeah, and this is certainly an indication of that. This is a very rare high honor for a civilian to be placed here in the rotunda. About 30 or so people caskets have been placed here to be honored, but most of them are not civilians. They're presidents and secretaries of states. So this is something particularly unique, and this is something that Congress had to agree to do, and then make the request to Billy Graham's son, who said that he would certainly be honored to have that happen. You know, interesting little note, sort of a reflection of this man's humility. His casket is a simple pine casket, and it was built by inmates at the Louisiana State Prison, State Penitentiary. Just a reflection of perhaps how this man lived, and also how he has died.
He never forgot where he came from. Grew up very poor in North Carolina, and he turned to God when he was 16 years old, and then from there on, it was his life mission. As you mentioned, 2 days will lie in honor inside the Capitol building Rotunda. He will be buried down in Charlotte, North Carolina, next to his wife Ruth. They were married for 64 years. 64 years together.